finally I am back. Wow. What a struggle these days to find the time. Technology that doesn't censor you to speak your mind, guys. Can you finally see me and hear me okay? How is this so? Whoa. So you have no idea. So previous my life got demonetized and then started just not working. The video doesn't work. The audio, I think the audio worked. And it was just before I even said any single word. So I don't know why I got censored for the previous video, but let's see this one. At this point, it doesn't really matter. Like we all know how the Marxism and this idea of totalitarian and control is eroding these countries. And hi guys, wow, I think we saw each other last week before my trip to New York. So it's been a while. It's been a week, I think. How have you been, everybody? I've been really well. I had some work with Epoch Times, and then the Afghanistan happened, so I had to meet a lot of distance from Afghanistan in New York. It's really learning from the first-hand experiences and their testimony and what they thought was really refreshing. And you know, the idea why am I even like starting this live today is really the pillar of democracy is open dialogue, right? It's nobody, I don't even have to be right. I think the fact that we can openly discuss what's going on. And also I've been asking every Afghanistan person, like, what can I do, what can we do? And every single one of them told me that please speak up, please use your voice to speak up for us. And this is why I started today's live. So guys, I know that this is Afghanistan is something that I do not know much about at all. Like when it comes to North Korea, I pretty much saw every documentary, every single writing, the studies, books, you know, interview, anything that I could find, I have read all of it. But obviously this is not my area, and therefore I am also here to learn from you guys, and also really talking about this tragedy from a refugee perspective, and also as an American perspective that I adopted this country as my country. So thank you, Brent. Good to see you. Yeonmi, will you do a podcast with Ayan Hershey Ali? I'd love to hear a conversation with you too. Yes, I think we will. We have reached out to each other on Twitter, and we got each other's email. I met her in Australia many years ago, and of course I read her books, and I read her husband's books, and I really learned so much from them. And this is another irony that Ayan Hershey Ali, she's a refugee like myself, and she's also a person of color. But we do not, conform to this mainstream PC culture that she and I got so demonized. And we have a lot to talk about. So first of all, what I think about Biden's, everybody has an opinion. I know that we all know that he messed up. What really got me particularly was, until this point somehow, I don't know what it was, I somehow thought Biden's, like, it was the same thing with Obama too. This is like the biggest, my ignorance I guess I had. I'm sure a lot of people also agree. Somehow I thought maybe Biden was a great person with a warm heart. He's a good person, but his policies and foreign policy and economic policy was quite different from mine. But I never thought he was a bad person. I never thought he was a bad guy. And I think that was maybe, comfort too. Like maybe just at least he's a good person but misled or something. That's what I thought of. But when he was giving interview to ABC News anchor and he was saying, you know, what do you think about these people who were falling from the airplane and dying? And he was literally saying, hey man, that was 4 days ago. Nobody's dying today. I mean, like, so if somebody died 4 days ago, that doesn't mean anything to you? Like, how on earth he thinks that's an answer to this tragedy, this poor people's death? I mean, that was so shocking. Like, and then that's when I realized how good showmen these Democrats are. Like, I completely, until this point, thought they are great people, just their ideology are quite different and quite in a way naive, even though just I thought these people have good intentions, but their policies are so poisonous and destructive. But he is a bad guy. Like Joe Biden, he's so evil. I couldn't believe it. He doesn't have a heart. All he can say is like, nobody died today, so therefore I am right. I'm doing everything right. That was scary to see, that how much that I was so blinded and then believing what they were like normal days put up, you know, saying I'm on the side of the people, I'm on the side of victims. And obviously this Biden does not care about human rights, does not care about these people. It's been so like depressing this morning and afternoon. I've been like watching Fox and CNN, going back and forth between two news. In general, like on the mainstream media, most of the things they are doing is trying to talk about the booster shot and COVID and how it's rising and to cover up what's happening in Afghanistan as much as they could. And Fox is all about how are we gonna save Americans. And of course I agree that we gotta save every single one of them out safely. But I know I didn't get that chance to be American, guys. I did not have that fortune to be born in this country and be an American. So it does break my heart when I see the like people like Afghanistan. Like it bothers me equal amount. I think because in a way that I was an American, so it bothers more. An equal amount, like that's the thing. Like the greatest injustice to me was if some American dies, 5 of them die. It's a national news, like the Otto Warmbier, the American white student went to North Korea accused of stealing a banner, and everybody knows his death. And of course it matters. His death should never be in vain, and it's so unforgivable what the regime did. But then there are millions of North Koreans also died in the most brutal ways. And I think this is something I try to break through my platform. Like every life matters. As much right now we are saying there are 15,000 Americans are trapped in Afghanistan. But think about those women and girls and men and children, looking at those moms who are passing their baby to the US soldiers, hoping they would like be alive, right? That is also another human life. And this is so sad that, in a world is utter tribalism. It's all that matters, like, are you on my side or you are not? Like, whose team are you on? And I hope that if we break that, the world would be much better place. And this is the thing, like, if the Taliban wants America rescues all their citizens, I hope they do, and I think they will, right? America, still despite all their mistakes, it is still the most powerful country on earth. And if they rescue all these Americans out, and the people that help the US military and the US government out, then what happens to 38 million people behind? All these girls gonna be sexual slaves to Taliban. And I was one of the sexual slaves. That's why this story doesn't mean, it's just not a news to me. I know that what this is gonna do to a human actual lives. This is why it's so heartbreaking, and I know I keep asking what could have been different, and I keep asking this my Afghanistan friends, like, what do you think it could have done? And they all tell me like, because America spent last 20 years spent $1 trillion on it, all they needed was that 2,500 soldiers little tiny base in Afghanistan that could have kept 38 million safe from these barbaric Talibans. But then when I ask Americans, there's like, oh, our obligation is done. Obviously, we went after Osama bin Laden. We did our mission. It's time to come home. And I think this is a time I am as a person, and you guys hopefully as American or as any person, ask, does any country or does anybody have an obligation to fight for somebody else's human rights and freedom unconditionally? I mean, I think we do, right? Like, if all it takes is having a less than 3,000 soldier base in that country and keeping 38 million lives safe, wouldn't that not be worth it? Maybe not. I'm too dumb. I really need to be more educated in this, but I just wanted to bring this perspective as a person who didn't have the fortune to be born in America, and I'm still not American apparently. I have applied to become American and I am still waiting to hear from them. So it's been obviously hard. It's been obviously tough to see, but another thing is happening now is North Korea started condemning, asking the U.S. military base to leave from South Korea. And this has been longest North Korean regime's mission to kick out the U.S. base. There are 28,500 U.S. soldier base in South Korea to defend them from the North Korea's aggression. And North Korea's dream was always the same, the scenario that happened to Vietnam. As soon as America leaves, the North, who has nukes, gonna invade South Korea, and then entire country gonna become communist. And that's why they never give up. In also seeing that how Biden or how American government currently ready to abandon their allies is threatening. It is scary. And also what's gonna happen to Taiwan, right? Even Japan, the country who cannot have the official army, stood up for the Taiwan, their allies, saying if the China invades, they're gonna join helping them out. American government still have not made any that kind of statement. It's a shameful that how weak American government is right now under Biden. It is just unbelievable. Sorry guys, I've been so passionate to keep missing all your questions. So let me go through your questions from now on. Thank you, good leader. I like the name. What else? Oh my god, there's so many questions. So Megan, thank you so much. Do you have any events in Chicago? I'd love the chance to meet you. I think you're so inspiring, amazing. I'd love to buy your dinner or something too. You're so sweet. I do not have any events in Chicago because this is an unbelievable liberal city. They are obsessed talking about the hidden oppression and the white supremacy, but not about yesterday in Chicago, 16 people got shot. Every weekend, we are around 70 to 100 people get shot in Chicago. And of course, freedom, none of these things matter to them. So it's hard to find the event that can invite me because what I fight is very different from their fighting. Melara, as I say, Yeonmi, the Afghanistan situation just gets my blood hot. 20 years of sacrifice, lives and money wasted in one quick stroke. No excuse for this. I agree. Oh, what a shame. Even America had to leave, right? There were so many better ways to do it. First, why don't you get the Americans out first? Then why don't you get those allies out second of all, and making sure all these vulnerable people from Taliban, get them out. Then do not let leave in the summer. They say summer is a fighting time. Leave them in the winter when it's so hard to fight in the middle of mountain with the rocks. There's so much could have been happening, and then just the fact that just Biden doesn't care, it shows he doesn't care. In that interview, he got zero emotions in there. He almost speaks like a robot at that point, and like, it's so yeah, someone died 4 days ago, so what's wrong with you, man? Like asking that question, right? It just, I cannot believe how ignorant I was all this time. And then let's see. Gabriel asks, Dear Yeonmi, I found on Instagram and Facebook profiles of an organization called Freedom for North Korea run by both you and Ji Sung-ho, the founder of Now. Is it still active? Unfortunately, it's not active. When I was in New York, we tried to do something, but Sung-ho had to go back to South Korea. Now he's a South Korean assembly. He's a lawmaker. So we both became very busy, so it's not active, unfortunately. But there is now still in South Korean branch still working. So you guys should join the South Korean branch of Now. Now is like an NGO, North Korean Defector NGO that tries to help the North Korean people. So anyway, I just think now all we can do is we should keep mentioning human rights, right? Like I thought, I mean, when Trump was in the office, obviously, I don't know, I would not be even shy about it. I was completely disappointed by Trump's ignorance on the human rights side of North Korean people. Like all he was talking was about Kim Jong Un and nukes, and the human rights angle never brought up, and that's why it got me so upset. And I really somewhat thought, Biden was different. And he said he was gonna fight for human rights. And all they do is just talk. And this is why I think I'm like also learning myself how complicated and nasty politics is. That you can never like get their face value. You can never believe what they say. And this is so dangerous when the people lose their faith in the system and the leaders. That's how the country, falls apart. And now it's like America's and people's like the trust in the system is so low, and trust in the media is so low. It's a miracle that anybody can sleep at night at this point. So crypto images, is that right? Cryptic images. Hindus in Pakistan are oppressed on a daily basis, yet our government wants to import thousands of Muslim immigrants who don't suffer oppression. Interesting. I know, guys. That's what I was keep thinking. It is true that life is suffering, isn't it? Life is suffering. There's so much injustice. There's so much wrong that is happening. But the thing is, we still have to have hope, that we still have to fight for the right things. And I've been rereading this book by Steven Pinker, The Better Angels of Our Lives, this one. I read it when my English was not good, and I'm reading it, and sometimes reading like the books like Irrational Optimist by Matt Ridley, and like Enlightenment by Steven Pinker. I think those books at least helped me be hopeful. That looking at the progress that we've been made despite the drawbacks and problems that we see. So CAINR, if you keep up this freedom talk, are you afraid of being deplatformed? Absolutely, guys. I don't even know how long I'm gonna last. Today already, like my Facebook account had a problem, and I wasn't able to upload anything or do anything on it. So I did like report the problem to them. But I don't know. It's at this point, this is also a problem, right? If your account doesn't work, and then you think automatically, am I getting censored, right? I'm sure like every time I do live, I get frozen and then I get disconnected, and then only when I do the live on YouTube that happens. So I think like, is Chinese or North Koreans, what's going on? So I try not to overdo that. But of course, the threat of deplatformed is a complete risk that every now public figure takes. And that's why I am, I don't know if you guys know the platform called the Lockers. It's founded by Dave Rubin. It's called Unlockers. I think that's what you can see it on the link on the detail section. And the Rumble, I try my best to support the platforms that supports freedom of speech and has no censorship. I think eventually, if enough people get kicked out from Google and Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, all of that, I'm sure like enough of us gonna move on to something else, no? And I think this is the beauty of capitalism, and this is why capitalism and freedom goes together. And this is what boils my blood when people say that how capitalism is evil. I mean, capitalism is the most benevolent system that I've ever seen, is where everything is voluntary. We volunteer to be on a certain platform. Like, we volunteer. Nobody's forcing us, unlike the socialism and communism where everything is controlled by the state and the party. So I hope that, all of us, if you guys are following me, I hope that you do also share the same passion for freedom like me. So please join the Lockers and I don't know, at the moment I think Rumble, right? Only 2 of them I know currently. Any platform that you think supports freedom of speech, let me know. I would love to join that movement. So SJSEL, you should interview long when you had the time. So both of you had a near similar life experience. Both of you escaped the brutal regime. I will look up to that. Long. I never heard that person. So ugly fish. Do North Korean people dream of space exploration, or is it always day-to-day survivor? Well, I did not even know the word space. So yeah, I never even seen the map of the world when I was in North Korea. So even now I'm like hearing these things called the UFOs, like Mars, different planet, or even different galaxy. It's such a new thing for me. So they don't even know the existence of space, not to mention like existence of Africa or different continents. That'd be the last thing that North Koreans would think right now today. Like, yeah, I do sometimes do that, like, at this same time, looking at the same sun, under the same sky, the problems that I am thinking about and the things they think about. Like, really, right at Columbia, I learned how to, analyze my privilege, right? And then looking for the hidden oppression and like be sensitive into all those hidden like infiltration of this aggression. And one good thing is sometimes I just sit down, I just think, what would they be thinking? And it does make me really appreciative that, the fact that I can even talk about Afghanistan people shows that how privileged I am, that I am not fighting for my next meal, my survivor today, that I can care for somebody else's right. And if we want to talk about blessing, I think that is a blessing. If you're in any situation that you can think about something other than your own survivor, that's a blessing. That means you have a good life. I think we need to redefine what good life is, what is success is. That people here so lost their values and virtue and morality, and I think it's really, people talking about the white privilege, and that's not privilege, right? The skin that you're born is not the gender you're born is not a privilege. They just completely got that wrong. So Brent, thank you. That makes me curious. If I would have asked 12-year-old Yeonmi what the stars were, what would she say? I would not have known what the stars would have been. I knew the word stars, that I knew, but I just did not know what it was. In North Korea, we don't even have a phone, right, or the TV that electricity barely comes in. Only used for the stars was forecasting tomorrow's weather. So when you, at night, if you don't live in the city, go outside and then look up the stars at night. If you can see clear sky with a lot of bright stars, that means tomorrow is going to be very, very sunny. But if you do not see much stars in the sky, that means tomorrow is going to be very cloudy. So that I knew. But other than that, I never thought about stars any other way. So, Sean Marvitt, love you, Yeonmi, you're an authentic, keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Sean. Catherine Rivers, Trump dealt with Kim by stroking his ego after flexing US muscle. How else do you deal with a sociopath who wants to blow up the world and has the means to do so? That's a great question. I think this is a thing. I do not try to be right. Everybody can do right, everybody can be wrong. And nobody is pure evil, nobody pure good. Everybody is capable of making mistake, and that's what God says, right? Like nobody is perfect. Humans are not perfect. I still till this day think what Trump did was not good, but it wasn't horrible. What Obama did was horrible, was completely ignoring what dictator was doing, and then taking all the bullies and threats from Kim Jong Un and spending that eight years in the office and let Kim Jong Un to keep develop nukes, right? That was horrible. But what Trump did was bad, not as bad, but bad, was that Kim Jong Un is just not a leader. Like, he is a sociopath, but he is a very rational sociopath. He takes all the calculated risk. If North Korean regime wasn't rational, they would not last for almost 80 years, right? We are talking about extremely rational regime. They do understand that they are never gonna attack America first. Their goal is not even attacking America. Their goal is eventually the America becomes weak enough that they are not gonna condemn the dictators to have nukes. And then America gonna be weak enough not to condemn when there's human rights and genocides committed by these regimes. Right? What China keep asking from American government is none of your business, right? If we have the concentration camps for the Uyghurs, whatever organ harvesting, whatever we do is none of your business, is our own problem. That's what these dictators want. They want the problems internal to be theirs. Nobody intervene. And why America has been the biggest threat to any dictator is because the American exceptionalism, that Americans had the exceptionalist model, had the exceptional virtue that believed that individuals were made in the image of God, that human beings are holy like God, that they deserve rights, they deserve to be free, and we have to fight for those values and the virtue. So Americans has been the defenders of freedom, and of course some cases they failed, but they've been successful. They made South Korea, look at South Korea, how prosperous and free that country became because of Americans. So what North Korea wants is waiting out, is a time game. America is a sinking ship anyway. The country is collapsing inside, right? People are committing their own suicide within the system. And I mean, who do we blame? These people hate themselves. They think they are the worst thing ever. Like when you meet this white, I'm so sorry. I'm like telling even the name. I met enough white people in New York, like at Columbia. Most faculty members, they are so self-loathing. They think the white people are the worst thing that's ever existed. And I mean, nobody forcing them to believe this nonsensical racist ideology, but they do. Oh my god, what I'm gonna do after this? I'm gonna be banned. Anyway, so what China wants, what North Korea wants, the same thing. That America finally give up trying to free other people, finally trying to fight for the righteousness. And they are gonna just leave North Korea alone, which means that sanctions gonna be lifted. That means North Korea gonna be able to trade whoever they want to, which is like there are so many people living under the authoritarian rules like Venezuela, Cuba, Syria, so many countries in Africa, Middle East, the North Korea economy doesn't have to be like that struggling, right? And so that's a goal, and that's the thing. We should never be worrying about that North Korea gonna nuke us. That's not gonna happen. And I think that's why Trump didn't have to go that far and praising Kim Jong Un, saying Kim Jong Un is loved by his people. I mean, like, that's a pure lie. How does Trump even know that Kim Jong Un is loved by 25 million North Koreans? Like, he's not. Nobody chose Kim Jong Un to be our leader, right? He was a dictator. He forced him. He was a grandson of the first Kim. And I know that Trump is coming from a business background. He's not a politician. How he makes deals are very different. But in the political stage, so many things are symbolic. When Trump makes the statement like that, like Kim Jong Un is supported by his own people, that now he's a great guy, he's a great leader, he works hard for his people. That means he got the legitimacy from the most powerful country in the world, which is USA. Now then, what do you think that the North Korean generals inside are gonna think? North Korean, the elite now believe that Kim Jong Un is backed by the USA government. Then nobody can start a coup, and nobody can compete with this power. So, and that was just so painful. Like, how many people died by this dictator? Like, there are 300,000 North Koreans in China being enslaved because their country is not feeding them, right? Like, why did I escape to China? I didn't want to be a sex slave, right? Who wants that? Because I didn't find food. But for these people just listening from Trump saying how Kim Jong Un is a great guy, that was obviously painful. And I know this is an emotional point, but the thing is, even statistically, Trump didn't have to go that far. And he didn't have to say, I'm in love with Kim Jong Un. Like, what on earth? Kim Jong Un should be the last person anybody falling in love, right? This is not even funny at this point. And that's what's sad about it. Like, North Korea became some kind of joke. That this is the thing, like the gravity. People don't understand how horrible, how hard the life is for these people. And for us, it's a theory. For us, it's a talking points that we do. For something that we read about. But being a North Korean, guys, can you imagine that being a North Korean right now? Like, can you imagine being in Afghanistan right now, trapped under Taliban? Like, now Americans taking their people away. You don't know what's gonna happen. You're gonna be in the slave market and be raped every single day, right? Like, thank God we are in America, but that because we can say that because we got this great country. And people should never be punished for their birthplace. And that's why this is how we fight for the better world. And this is why I'm not joining all those PC culture thing. And there is a fight to be done for making the world a better place. But obviously, I think a lot of people got just losing it at this point. I'm sorry. So anyway, let's go to another Catherine's question. So Trump was able to get him to stop shooting off rockets, release U.S. prisoners in time. I think Trump could have gotten more done for the North Korean people. Yes, I agree with that. Trump got the auto out, right? Got the prisoners out. And North Korea did stop nuclear tests temporarily. That's the important part. Temporarily, North Korea did stop. And here, why Kim Jong Un played Trump is that, unfortunately, and fortunately, right, the U.S. government has only their terms, 4 years or 8 years. Kim Jong Un has his lifetime. If they have an agenda, they have a lifetime to wait it out and work on it. So it's not I'm blaming Trump, that Kim Jong Un went back on testing nukes again, because it was not even in Trump's control. That I agree, that Trump was better and he took actual real actions. Then that's why I say that. But I think you guys get the point, right? Like, why I still think that it was just unnecessary to writing those love letters and show off his friendship with Kim Jong Un. Like, that's the last thing you should be showing off. And I do agree that Trump was a lot tougher, and this is why. But the thing is, guys, even if I support Trump, I do, because I mean he was the only president who was so right about China, who was so willing to fight against Chinese tyranny, that I think he did so many great job in many sectors, like his Supreme Court choice. I mean, I know like why I'm going this direction or I'm against that, but the thing is, we cannot be every single time somebody does like every single thing is horrible, every single thing is great, right? We should be able to analyze, isolate the instant, and do our best to be less biased. And in order for democracy to work, I think us to be aware about our bias. And that's why, in a way, I think I made the mistake of thinking maybe Biden was a great guy who actually cares about human rights, and this time it's proven that he's not. And this is why I'm completely so openly speaking against Biden at this point. I'm going to join everything I can to support the people and human rights. Any leader that lies, any leader that does not support the universal value of human rights, that is my enemy, because I'm a human rights activist. And I think we need more people like that. We should never be just like choosing on one side because in the sake of joining on one side. And this is what Marxists use, right? What they are doing is people's willingness, our desire to belong into a group, that we want to belong to something. And it's so dangerous when you're getting into this cycle of group thinking, right? This is why I'm also against PC and this like mainstream now culture in America, is that it's hard to break that group thinking when you're in it. So we should do our best, do everything that we can within our individual power to not get into that trap that politicians set us in, because who wins when we all think like a group? The politicians, the ones who want to control, wins. Nobody wins, right, at the end of the day. So Michael, thank you, Taekun. Do you know if North Korea tells its people about America's failures? So did the North Korean people know about America losing the Vietnam War? And will they hear about what's going on in Afghanistan now? Stay strong, Yeonmi. Thank you. Yes, America, North Korea was the first country, I believe, was celebrating so sorry to say that, but 9/11, that was a day, victory day for North Korea. And they do love when America fails, right? And because America is a unique country that stood for individual liberty, that North Korea, the totalitarian regime, oppose. So of course, like North Korea cherish every failure that America makes. And now look at China, even they are what was horrible about Afghanistan, another point is now China, North Korea can go in all the people around the world say, look at America, how they're abandoning their allies. America's not gonna save you, so come to us, we're gonna save you. And that's terrifying. That is terrifying. It's so horrible, right? Like if the people think that America is not trustworthy, that their life is not safe when you choose the path of American values, then that's how the world becomes bad. And I think China is already using that. Like look at, I'm sure they are now already talking to Taiwanese, people, and there are sympathizers in Taiwan too, looking at making them sure like you gotta be siding with us. America is not gonna guarantee your future, your safety. So but the thing is like, it is such an unfortunate time, but in a way though, as sad as this was, but I think it was for me at least awakening point for me to understand the complete hypocrisy of this Biden's Democratic Party, right? Like I knew how hypocritical they were, but I just somehow thought they still cared about human beings, just misled. But just seeing them, how all they care is their control. All they literally care is just control for themselves, keep maintaining the control, like exactly like North Korean regime. Really, like the fact that nobody can murder in this country and torture anybody is because there's a rule of law and we have different system. But any government is capable of becoming like the CCP and North Korean regime, right? Any regime is possible. And that's why we need to watch out the governments and their increasing power. So Richard Parker, I support democracy, but how can we win against dictatorships that are in power for life while our leaders are only in power for a short time? That's a great question, Richard. I agree with that too. Another my question is that, right, like, I mean, Hitler was voted in. He was voted by his people, right? Venezuela, Cuba. I mean, there are so, and Cuba was like a dictator. No, Venezuela was. There are many countries that people choose, I mean, vote, elect dictator. Even in Philippines, I don't think he's a quite dictator, but he's quite authoritarian. He does not respect human rights, and so many countries does that. So it is totally possible in democracy that we elect dictator. Then what do we do? It's a real question that we need to keep asking, and I think, but still I do believe that democracy is the answer. The voting, where there's a platform for the people to speak, that doesn't matter how rich or powerful you are, one person get a one vote. That's still really great invention that humanity made. But then on the side, I do think that we need to have a better education, educating people what is separation power, what are the checks and balances. And I met so many Americans. I only came this country a few years ago, guys, and do not even understand the American government system. And these people vote, obviously. That's truly horrible, right? We need to have some kind of education, teach people why in democracy freedom of speech matters, right? Now we have this generation of people think you can have freedom, you can have free country without freedom of speech. That's the thing, like it's never heard of. That's never possible. But I think it's because there's indoctrination, brainwashing that we've been having in this course with this Marxist ideology slipping through. So, right, like that's the thing. Like democracy is messy and it's hard and it's fragile. That we have to be vigilant. And it freaks me out that I need to send my son to public school in this country. And I am like actually at this point thinking maybe I need to homeschool him at this point. It's horrifying. So President-elect Pressure 609. So besides world domination, what do you believe the end game for communists be? What do you think their strategy would be to remain in power if successful? What would be the end game for communism, right? I think it for them is to be the ending game is that no more countries like America left behind. That all countries living under the totalitarian regimes like China and North Korea, nobody bothers each other's business, and they're gonna help the bad guys stay in power as much as they can, right? Why China supports all these bad guys, like why China supports North Korean regime, why does even Russia, so Lukashenko, the Belarus is supported by Russia, why does bad guys helping out each other? It's because when you are equal like dictators, all that matters is your family is staying in power. And if there are countries, no countries like the US left there and challenging and talking about the universal values and human rights, how convenient it is that they can do literally whatever they want. They enslave their humanity, they rape people, they do literally whatever they want. And there's nothing holding them accountable. So I think that's why democracy is a threat to any authoritarian regimes. And that is also why authoritarianism is a threat to any democracy in the world. In the human history, based on what I read so far, that no democratic countries, two democracies went into war with each other. There hasn't been even one single case. Can you imagine the UK and France and going into war tomorrow? That's not gonna happen, right? So if the people really here caring about justice and peace, all of those concepts, right, then you gotta be the first thing you need to fight is freedom. and that is not what they're fighting for. And all these social justice, like the activists, these warriors fighting is like nonsense, their pronouns and their feelings. I think that's like we need to re-educate ourselves and people and the public and our children the value of freedom. It's not just a freedom is cool. It literally prevents the war, the violence, poverty, destruction, and it is the ultimate dream for anybody if you want to be like living as a human being. So yeah, I think the battle with the authoritarian governments and the free world is gonna continue, and whoever gonna be stronger gonna survive eventually, right? Like in a way we cannot coexist because the value system is so contradicting, that one believes that individual matters, that individual liberty, that we are holy, that as our own, that our opinions is unique, that we can be unique. But the other value is like individual don't matter, you're just one little block. As long as you are in the part of movement, that's when your life means something, when you're in the part of something, a collective. But as a single one, it means nothing, your life means nothing. And that contradicting values can never coexist. So it's gonna continue as long as we live, and I don't know how long we can be free like this, because even at this point in America, I just tweeted before this, it was so funny. In this video, before even I uttered the word, this video got demonetized. And this is a thing, like this is a big brother, like they literally watching you everywhere and they censor what you say. And never thought in America I was gonna be censored like this. So guys, I know we got so much today. I missed like hundreds of questions, thousands of questions. I love these discussions. Like I would love to have these discussions as long as I have the platform. I know that I don't get any support from YouTube, but if you really believe in freedom and what I do, please join me on my Patreon and the lockers. My patrons, helping me to keep staying on YouTube and creating videos and having my voice and keep fighting. So yeah, if you want, please join me there. I do have Google Hangouts. But not only that, I really hope that today it is important us to take care of Americans. I completely get that. But I also hope that someday we can go beyond that. We can go beyond being a white, being an Asian, being American, being not just, we can go beyond that. We are a human being that created in the image of God, that we deserve to be cared and loved and be freed. All of us, no matter who we are. So whoever the lives, the value is equal, right? Which there's no price for a human life. So thank you guys for helping me and supporting me, giving me this platform, and I really hope, what can we do? It's even saying like, let's pray for these people is so shallow, but that's sometimes all I can do. That this injustice, this life is so much hardship, that suffering. All we can do is hoping for a miracle to happen. So I hope this somehow it works out. But meanwhile, let's fight back. We cannot let go down to this path, because now we are living in a police state. I was in New York this time. Every restaurant that I go to, they ask for the vaccination card and with the ID. That is China, guys. Like in China, even buying a bus ticket, you need ID. But now, if without the vaccine, so you cannot even eat at a restaurant in New York City. I mean, in Manhattan, that's where I was. So this is just like what the pandemic only happened last year, like what our life has become. We have lost so much freedom, and this is time to wake up. This is gonna get worse, and it's not I'm becoming alarmist. This can get way worse. So please join me in this fight, guys. I love you so much, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Have a wonderful, beautiful weekend, guys. Love you. Bye. Thank you so much for your support. And I will see you on my Patreon, guys. Bye bye. Have a good one. Bye.